So here we go again with another story. Police pulling over innocent black people being detained and then having to release them. So this one is out of Texas. Texas police were looking for teen suspects, but they instead detained a black couple in their 50s and 60s at gunpoint. Remember the one up in a suburb of Boston? They were looking for a white guy that was stealing stuff from a hotel. And they're now arresting a black man during the chase. The white guy who was the culprit went jogging past the black guy. And then they detained the black guy. They don't even know each other. Even the white guy said, "No, I don't know him." So in this case, yeah, an elderly black couple is suing the Texas Police Department after they were arrested at gunpoint. Officers said they were searching for teenage suspects when they pulled over the couple. Man, it'd be nice, right? To be in your 50s and 60s and look like a teenager. The lawsuit alleges excessive force, illegal search and seizure, and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I'm not sure what this picture here is doing here. Yeah, with Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. So a black couple has filed a lawsuit against the Texas Police Department. We read that already. Attorneys for 67-year-old Michael Lewis and his girlfriend, 57-year-old Regina Armstead, said the Rosenberg Police Department used excessive force during November 2020 arrest. What they went through was incredibly demeaning and dehumanizing and unconstitutional, attorney Lauren Barnes told Insider. The lawsuit said that 5 RPD, which is Rosenberg Police Department officers, were searching for a group of black teenagers who were suspected of brandishing weapons and assault when they pulled over Lewis and Armstead. RPD incorrectly identified Miss Armstead's vehicle as the one used by the group of teens to flee the scene of an alleged assault, even though plaintiffs are senior citizens and do not remotely match the description. Yeah, well, you know what? The police play games because I know a guy, he was an auxiliary police here in New York, and he didn't have something exactly like that, but he got stopped because he saw some man slumped over the steering wheel, and he stopped to check it out. Turns out the man was drunk, and he was in one of these neighborhoods, I think what's his name, Jay-Z, the rapper, grew up. And he called it to 911. Police came, right? And they're checking out this guy. And they checked the guy who called. They checked his VIN, which is vehicle identification number. Now, why would you do that? They ran his VIN number, and this is a true story. They ran his VIN number, and they said this car came back stolen. So I'm telling this story because they do play games. They do. And he said what happened to him is that they took him down, put him in the back seat of the police car, right? And took him down to the station, and he ended up having to go to court. And every time he went to court, the officer who made the arrest, he never showed up. Yep, never showed up. And the thing is, he was an auxiliary in the same station that this officer was that did the arrest. Yeah, and he saw him. One day he went there in the locker room where you change, and he saw the same officer who arrested him. And this is a true story. He told me this years ago. So he said, however, the case was eventually thrown out because every time he showed up in court, the officer who made the arrest and said, well, this was a stolen car. His car wasn't stolen. He said his car was reported stolen. He never showed up. He never showed up to court. So if an officer doesn't show up, eventually the judge is going to throw the case out, and that's exactly what happened. So, you see, getting back to this one here where they claim that this car, what have you, was the one. Police do play games, and the story I just told will back this up. They do play games with people, depending on who you are. And this guy, he was an auxiliary, and yet they played that kind of games with him. So, even though plaintiffs are senior citizens and do not remotely match the description of the teen suspects, the lawsuit said, during the stop, officers instructed Armstead to throw her keys out the window, get on her knees outside of the vehicle, right? Sometimes you got people like 57 years old, they can't get on their knees. The bus over here, it has like a hydraulic system that kind of stoops down so people get up. Because you got people here, once you reach those ages, 50s or so forth, they can't walk up. Yeah, as much as telling somebody that age to get on their knees. So, and this is it. Get on her knees outside the vehicle and then walk backwards to the police car with her hands in the air, the lawsuit said. One officer arrested Armstead while two other officers kept their guns pointed at her, the lawsuit said. While she was being arrested, Armstead told officers that Lewis was a dialysis patient with his stent. It says stent, but it should be stent in his hand, and that he could not have anything tight, like handcuffs around his arm or wrist. The lawsuit said she stood telling them, "My boyfriend's on dialysis." Right? Lewis recalled to Insider. He can't have any handcuffs on his arms at all. He's on dialysis. But they didn't listen to that. We both feared for our lives. That's what the police usually say. They feared for their lives. After Armstead was placed in the back of the police vehicle, 4 armed officers, including one holding an assault rifle, then ordered Mr. Lewis out of the vehicle and told him to get on the ground, the lawsuit said. I was praying to God that the guns didn't go off on us, because when you point guns at somebody like that, you never know, Lewis told Insider. The officers cuffed Lewis despite his medical objections and placed him in a separate police car while they searched Armstead's vehicle and confiscated her cell phone without explanation, said the lawsuit, which accuses RPD of illegal search and seizure, unlawful detention, and false arrest. That was real scary, I tell you. It really was. I feared for my life, I really did. And Regina too, Lewis said. We both feared for our lives because, like I said, a gun could have went off. The lawsuit said that after officers found no weapons, no contraband, and no other evidence of illegal activity in Armstead's vehicle, she and Lewis were uncuffed. Armstead asked why they had been stopped and searched, and an officer said they were searching for teenage suspects. Gee, imagine being in your 50s, huh? And looking like teenagers. Armstead later realized she did not have her cell phone or her keys, the lawsuit said. They returned to the scene to collect Armstead's phone from an officer and discovered the key FOB, which had been tossed out the window at police instruction, was crushed. RPD said they would reimburse Armstead for the key fob, but they did not, the lawsuit said. Both Armstrong and Lewis felt frightened, humiliated, embarrassed, and persecuted for being black and suffered severe mental anguish from the arrest and from being detained, said the lawsuit, which claims officers violated the Fourth Amendment and the Americans with Disabilities Act. As a result of the handcuffing during his arrest, Mr. Lewis's medical device in his wrist malfunctioned. This resulted in 3 separate medical procedures to replace his fistula. These procedures caused prolonged pain and suffering to Mr. Lewis, the lawsuit said. Barnes, Lewis, and Armstead's attorney said she hopes to see if we can get them some accountability and justice. A spokesperson for RPD did not immediately respond to insiders' request for comment. Okay, so this article here, for some reason they closed the conversation off, so nobody could comment. So I'm gonna put the link and the video, so anybody wants to comment, they could comment, because usually when you comment here, sometimes they remove certain things, they don't like certain words or what have you. But when people comment and the YouTube channel that I have, I got 2, they can basically give their opinion without having to be censored. Unlike these newspapers, or this one here is what's this here? Yeah, they don't have to be censored. This is U.S. News. Yeah, so they don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's see here. Get this going.